right here?
Yeah, they are.
Welcome back to Kentucky Fried Chicken. A little bit of home in your hand. You're never too far, so come as you are. Kentucky Fried Chicken is home.
I ought to come home more often.
If you've been waiting and waiting for your allergy medicine to work, it's time to get fast relief. It's time to try New Alleract. New Alleract has triprolidine, proven to give you more relief faster from the cause of allergy symptoms than any antihistamine you can buy. For relief of your sneezing, runny nose, and itchy, watery eyes, the wait is over. Now there's Alleract. More relief, faster.
On June 14th, 1985, Uli Derrickson boarded Flight 847, unaware of the terror she was about to face.
I will take you any place you want.
Taking a stand against terrorist hijackers.
Don't hurt anyone.
She fought to save the lives of others.
Stop it! I have done everything you asked!
Untie him. He's in terrible pain.
Based on a true story, Lindsay Wagner stars as the heroic woman who made headlines. The taking of Flight 847, Monday.
Unsafe behavior is unsafe behavior, and unprotected sex is unprotected sex. And they're risky. They're both risky. Condoms are not 100% safe. Condoms can be most effective when they're used correctly, and there is a right way and a wrong way to using one. If you don't know, you find out how to use a condom. The fact is, we do have choices. The final decision is up to the individual.
For answers to your questions about AIDS, call 1-800-342-AIDS.
Later tonight, it's the 7 Night Report, the miraculous landing of this jetliner, and what went wrong.
We'll show you a lesson in courage from a cancer survivor, and Baltimore's streak is on the line again tonight.
The Night Report is next.
From the land of sky blue waters, from the land of pines, lofty blossoms, comes the beer refreshing, hands the beer refreshing, dance and sparkle in each glassful. Hands the beer refreshing, hands the beer refreshing, hands.
You know, Vern, the so-called heat you get from that heat pump of yours, it's not very hot. I mean, it's definitely drafty and kind of lukewarm, know what I mean? Vern, you ought to start heating with gas and get rid of that old lukewarm pump. Vern, gas heat is fast, gas heat is cheap, and gas heat burning is hot, know what I mean? I mean, you don't hear people going around saying things like, be careful now, don't touch that, it might be Luke.
You're watching Channel 7 in Boise, Idaho's news channel. Now, A.K. Lienhart, Bob Holland, Mark Johnson on sports, and Rick Lance with Idaho's weather. This is the NewsCenter 7 Night Report.
Good evening, everyone. Some clues tonight into that incredible Hawaii airliner accident.
The airliner's fuselage was ripped apart in midair, and all but one aboard survived. A Pocatello man was taxiing his plane just a few hundred feet from the Aloha jetliner. He says he'll never forget what he saw. This is what Craig Nichols witnessed.
We were flying the island here from Pocatello, and we refueled at Kahului and Maui, filed our flight plan. We were just en route to Honolulu, and we filed the flight plan, went out to get in the airplane, and my friend said, what are they flying this one in for repairs? And he was kind of laughing, and I looked over and saw the hair blowing by, and you could see people in there with their hair blowing and the whole top of the fuselage gone, and I said, no, they don't fly them like that.
Other witnesses echoed Nichols' report.
Well, it sounded like an explosion, but probably more like rapid decompression.
I saw that the plane was disintegrating. I saw that there was absolutely no hope that we were going to land. The pilot did something that was unbelievable in bringing that airplane down. I mean, a plane like that should not fly.
all the people laying around injured, cut up, and one guy almost had a severed arm. It was just really a gory deal. These people were right out in the airstream when this guy was coming into land, and they were, 20 minutes out, so I'm sure it took a while to get in.
61 of the 95 people on the plane were taken to a Maui hospital. A flight attendant is missing. It's believed she was sucked out of the plane when it blew apart.
This is Roger Furman. The particular series of 737s involved in last night's accident has been the subject of a number of warnings from Seattle-based Boeing and the Federal Aviation Administration. They include warnings about fuselage cracks and broken rivets in the very area where the huge hole appears on the Aloha Airlines plane. A service bulletin from Boeing shows just where the problem is likely to occur. The bulletin also includes a drawing showing how the cracks tend to develop at the rivets. A structural failure of this sort is just one early lead investigators are checking.
What you have here is an obvious structural failure of an airplane that has reached its cruising altitude, at least pretty high, and that's an extremely rare type accident.
We are sending a structures engineer and accident investigation specialists. 6 NTSB people are going, and as far as we can tell now, 4 from the FAA.
Meanwhile, investigators marvel at how the pilot brought the plane down. Dangling electric wires and flammable oxygen hoses were not cut, and most vital control lines were below the hull and still operative. Roger Furman, NewsCenter 7.
Investigators now say there are no early signs of a bomb exploded on the Aloha jet. There were no scorch marks, no signs of explosion.
Boeing and other Northwest corporations are feeling the pinch tonight from the new Tax Reform Act. Supporters of the law promised that big companies would finally be forced to pay their fair share of taxes. As NewsCenter 7's George Snyder reports from our Washington, D.C. bureau, the tax law appears to be working.
The Northwest, like much of the country, was racked by the recession of the early 80s. Boeing, however, was not so hard hit. Company profits soared to $475 million in 1983. But Boeing didn't pay 1 cent in taxes. In fact, because of corporate loopholes, Boeing got a $44 million tax refund that year. And while loggers stood in bread lines, Weyerhaeuser claimed 1983 profits of $274 million, while paying less than $50 million in taxes.
We stepped on some big toes as we took back some of the well-worn incentives from big banks, big oil, big insurance, and big defense contractors.
Corporate tax loopholes became the target of tax reformers on Capitol Hill. Congress claimed to close the loopholes in the 1986 tax reform bill, and the proof now is in the pudding. This year, Boeing did not get a tax refund. On profits of $658 million, the company paid $543 million to the IRS. And Weyerhaeuser's tax bill more than doubled since 1983. Bob McIntyre of Citizens for Tax Justice was one of the prime agitators in the movement to close corporate loopholes. He says Congress did a good job.
Because of the Tax Reform Act, because companies like Boeing are paying taxes, you've lowered the burden on poor people, you've cut the burden on most middle-income people. It's a fairer system.
The Boeing company refused to comment on camera and refused to comment at all about this year's tax payment, only to say the IRS has been paid. In Washington, D.C., I'm George Snyder, NewsCenter 7.
Oregon senior senator spent this night not in his home state, but here in Idaho.
Mark Hatfield was at Northwest Nazarene College to address the first annual Len B. Jordan Public Affairs Symposium, named in honor of the late Idaho senator. And NewsCenter 7's Josh Nelson had a chance to talk with Hatfield. Josh?
Bob, A.K., the purpose of the Jordan Symposium is to explore significant public affairs issues. And Hatfield probably was asked to kick off the symposium because no senator from the Pacific Northwest has dealt longer with great public affairs issues than Mark Hatfield. He's been a U.S. senator since 1966. And while Hatfield has seen a lot of history in those 22 years, we asked him about some current issues, beginning with the recently passed protectionist trade bill, which the president has threatened to veto.
I don't like the trade bill. I voted against it the first time. I voted against it in the report this week, and I shall vote to sustain the president's veto. I do not believe we should divest the president of an economic tool in the world of geopolitics.
But Hatfield disagrees with the president on expanding America's military response in the Persian Gulf.
I think we should have had the United Nations flag on those ships out there so that many participants would have been responsible for the policy rather than singling the United States out. I think it can only lead to greater difficulties, and I think that it's wrong to endanger our American fighting men to be the world policeman for the Persian Gulf.
And from the Persian Gulf to presidential politics, the chances that Vice President George Bush will fulfill his pledge to campaign in Idaho, even though he has the nomination sewn up.
I believe that George Bush has made that commitment. He will carry through with that commitment. I have no doubt at all that he will be in Oregon for our May primary. I'm not quite sure when yours is in Idaho, but if he comes to one western state, he's going to cover them all.
Of course, AK Bob, the Idaho Republican primary is on May 24th, and Hatfield, along with Idaho Senators McClure and Sims, will very much campaign for Mr. Bush this fall.
Interesting comments. Thank you very much, Josh. Senate delay on that INF treaty with the Russians tops Night Digest. Lawmakers won't debate the treaty until May 11th. That is just days before President Reagan goes to Moscow for another nuclear arms summit with Soviet leader Gorbachev.
The worst thing we could do for arms control is to rush this treaty to the point that we don't know what it means, we don't have clear understandings, and we have disputes with the Soviets after ratification.
Some of the last-minute problems, the Soviets now say U.S. inspectors cannot look inside containers that hold sections of missiles. The Soviets want to restrict inspectors to certain areas of missile sites, and the two sides disagree over whether the treaty covers futuristic weapons, such as lasers.
The Reagan administration is also cautious tonight about a plan to get rid of Panama's General Noriega. Officials say the deal isn't